Hi everyone, my name is Rudy. Welcome to my channel. If this is your first time here, this channel is geared towards people interested in personal finance, as well as wealth growth and management and entrepreneurial advice as well. Let's just get this out of the way. I am not a financial advisor. I'm just a random person on the internet posting advice online based off of my own personal experience. So please take everything with a grain of salt. Now, I want to go ahead and dive into this because it is kind of near and dear to me. I grew up poor. I grew up on a farm in Puerto Rico. We essentially ate the food that was produced from our farm. So the livestock that was there, we ate that. The crops that we harvested, that's what we ate, and that was that. Occasionally, every once in a while, we would go to the store, the bodega that was down the road, and that's how we went ahead and got additional food and things like that. Now, when we moved to Florida, there was a little bit of a discrepancy in things. I didn't realize that I grew up on the bad side of town until I was a little bit older, pretty much about college age, that I was like, oh wow, there's more outside of this neighborhood. And it really wasn't until then that I started kind of trying to figure out what it was that held my family back, that held me back. I know I look white, but I'm Puerto Rican. I was born and raised over there. My dad was an immigrant, and finding out how to shift my view on things and finding out how to break out of this idea, this mentality of being poor was a lot. It took a lot of energy. The first thing that essentially got me to break out of that was to go ahead and change the way that I looked at purchasing things. A lot of people, when they're poor, they look at things and they instantly think, I can't afford this, or I don't have the money for this. And we as human beings are very, very interesting creatures, because when we go ahead and we say that we cannot do something, we tend to believe that subconsciously over a long period of time. The more that we say something, the more that we truly believe it over a long period of time. So instead of thinking of, I cannot afford this, or I don't have money for this, why not think of, how can I afford this, or how can I find the money to buy this? And it kind of changes the way that you look at things and the way that you think of things, from a negative side of things to a more positive side of things, and being able to actually create that income, to create that wealth. And that is really truly the seed that starts people on a journey of financial freedom and growing their wealth to a point to where they can essentially be free of whatever it is that they're doing. For those of you that aren't aware of the FIRE movement, that's essentially part of that, and kind of like setting yourself up so that you can go ahead and put your money in the right area. Obviously, if you are looking at ways to increase income and increase how much money is coming in, you want to go ahead and either look at how you can increase the amount of money that you're making at your job, or get any bonuses that might come, or get side hustles or side gigs that will go ahead and allow you to make money. There are some people that set up e-commerce shops that are very quickly making money. There's also ways that you can go ahead and drive a Lyft or an Uber car that will go ahead and generate money and income. You could also be a virtual assistant that'll go ahead and help. If you are, I bartended for a very long time. So if you're a bartender, you can pick up additional shifts. You could pick up shifts that have a higher potential for making tips and making money, or whatever it may be. There's a multitude of ways of making additional money. You just have to look for it in order to find them, especially in today's day and age when more and more things are going digitally. Who knows? You might be able to find a job that will go ahead and let you do things digitally, part-time, and will generate enough revenue for you to knock out debt that is there. Which leads me to my next thing: get out of debt as fast as possible. You want to go ahead and cut your high interest debt so fast. One of the biggest high interest debts that are out there are credit card debt. Like, it is insane how crazily high these fees and interest rates are, and it's legal. The highest that I've seen is 29.99%. I'm sure that it's higher depending on the state that you're in or whatever it may be, but it's something that is paramount because it is the negative effect of compound interest. For those of you that do not know what compound interest is, essentially compound interest is you putting little tiny bits of money aside, and over a long period of time, that money that you're putting in is going to start generating interest. And all of the money that you've been putting in the past, all of it is working cumulatively into bringing you and making you more money over a long period of time. With credit card debt, it is the opposite of that. Now, the S&P 500 on average makes around 7 to 10% on average on your money. Whereas with credit card debt, you're being charged 29.99% maximum. Now, obviously, again, this is dependent on your personal situation. Credit scores come into effect as well, but still, I digress. That is what compound interest is, and I do not like the negative side of things. Get out of that debt as fast as possible. Now, there is good debt that is out there, but I'll save that for another video later on. Subscribe to this channel. That way you'll get notified on knowing the difference between good debt and bad debt. But that is one thing that I highly recommend, is getting out of debt as fast as possible, using that money that you got from side gigs or a raise or a bonus, whatever it may be, so that you can knock out the principal, knock out everything that's there, and get it off your plate entirely. Once you have all your debt taken care of and you have all your debt said and done, the next thing that you want to go ahead and do is create an emergency fund. This emergency fund is very crucial. Most Americans in the United States don't even have $400 saved in their banking account. So you want to go ahead and have at least 3 to 6 months worth of savings set aside. We're talking about expenses, so your essentials, as well as, you know, anything that you would need to pay, whether it's your car loan or whatever it may be. Obviously, if you're in a situation where you need to access funds from your emergency fund, I would recommend getting rid of some leisurely things, luxury things like your Netflix subscription, maybe go into a cheaper cell phone service provider, whatever it may be, in order to go ahead and decrease the cost of said necessities. That way you can last longer with these emergency funds. But the biggest thing about having an emergency fund that I think is very crucial is that most of the time, whenever we have something that happens where we would need to access emergency funds, it's typically things like, who knows, a car tire pops and you need to go ahead and have it fixed, or you need to get a root canal because your teeth are killing you. And the majority of people, they put that and finance it, or they put that on a credit card. And what ends up happening is that ends up being much more expensive than what it would have been if you had just had cash on hand to pay for it up front. That's the difference between the two. And when you have that on hand and you have that readily available, it will save you so much more money in the long run than what you would think. Not to mention that you will no longer be in debt, so you can go ahead and go back into replenishing those funds as fast as possible, and then putting your money into investments so that that money can go ahead and work for you in the long run, and you can see the positive side of compound interest. I hope that some of this advice was able to help you out. Like the video, subscribe, that way you can go ahead and stay up to date to the next video that comes out, and I will see you all on the next one. Thanks, friends. Have a good one. Peace.